Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than just Peyton Manning. I'm also motivating Manning. When I say insurance, you say financial services. Insurance.
Financial services.
Insurance.
Financial services.
Now when I say nationwide, you say is both. Nationwide.
Is both.
Nationwide.
Is both.
For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
With TikTok ads, our revenue went up $10 million year over year during back-to-school season. Penn Foster is online education. TikTok is great because the reach is incredible for finding a lot of different types of audiences on the platform. Creator content at scale allowed us to easily develop and distribute creator-led ads. Our return on ad spend for TikTok is 21% higher than the next best channel.
Start growing your business today. Head over to getstarted.tiktok.com/TikTok ads.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Looking for these better days.
It is a College Football Friday, November 14th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. The second iteration of the College Football Playoff rankings came out earlier this week. We can certainly talk about that, but some of the things are a moot point. We do have two top 25 teams in action here on this Friday night. And here to join us to break down the top 25 college football schedule for this week 12 of the college football season, presented by FanDuel. He is Jared Smith. You follow him on Twitter at JaredSmithBets. Jared, I mentioned the college football playoff rankings that came out. The only thing I can say is, look, I would have put Texas A&M 2, then Indiana 3, based off that close game last week. But you know what? It doesn't mean anything because Indiana and Ohio State are playing each other in the championship for the Big Ten. So it doesn't matter who's ranked where. I think the more interesting story, and I'd love to hear your take on this, is the doomsday scenario that could play out for the ACC. There's a chance that this conference gets left out of the college football playoffs.
There really is. I don't think it'll happen. I think Georgia Tech will sneak in. And I think if Georgia Tech, even if they lose to Georgia, unless it's like a complete, whitewash, like complete blowout, I would expect Georgia Tech and Miami, if one of those teams gets into the ACC championship game, the ACC better hope that that team wins. I don't know.
The officiating is going to be wild.
Yeah, like there are so many scenarios, right? Louisville, Pittsburgh, Virginia. Like I think Virginia's kind of on the outs with their quarterback injury. Louisville's got a huge game tonight against Clemson. I do think there is a scenario where it happens, right? Where the group of five, or I guess group of six, would jump. But I think it's an unlikely scenario. And there's so much chaos that's going to take place over the next few weeks. I say this to people who are really upset. Like there's people who are like, oh, I can't believe Notre Dame is ahead of this team. Just let it play out over the next few weeks. And then we'll get to the end of November, early December. We'll get the college or the conference championship games, and then we'll have a much better sense of where we're at. Right now, there's so much jockeying; it's not worth it to waste our energy.
Yeah, I mean the scenario is, 4-loss Duke wins the ACC. That's the scenario, and then James Madison finishes and they win their title game. They're undefeated. Not undefeated, but they're ranked higher. But I think that also I wouldn't put it past the committee members to really just finagle the rankings. And to say, oh yeah, maybe Miami deserves to be a little bit higher. We're going to put them in at number 11, or there's so many stupid things that can happen here. But you're right, it's going to play itself out. Let's talk about the games here on the schedule for tonight. First off, number 20 Louisville does host Clemson, and right now up on FanDuel, this is a very short line. Jared, you have Louisville as a 1.5 point favorite, or now 2.5 point favorites over Clemson. Clemson, the most disappointing team in the season, this season, in my opinion, cost me a lot of money in my preseason bets. How do we see this game playing out tonight there at Louisville?
Yeah, I took the under 51.5. I know 51 being a relatively key total. We'll see if that comes down a little bit. This is slow versus slow in terms of pace. I think both defenses at least have shown me enough to where I can get behind an over this year or an under this year. I make the game 3, so I'm not going to go crazy with this one. I do think Clemson still has a chance to show us some of their best, but Louisville just signed the extension with Brom. I like their offense this year. I really like their defense a lot. That's why I'm on the under. So they've been really good against the pass, and it's really tough to get behind anything positive Clemson related, especially on the road.
Yep. Also tonight, number 8 Oregon takes on Minnesota. Oregon, a massive favorite. They're 25.5-point favorites, but the total here is 44.5, Jared. And it could be, we're going to monitor the weather later on tonight there in Eugene, Oregon, but this could be the 3rd straight rain game for Oregon. I mean, talk about a bad break in a stretch of the season here. And we saw how much they struggled against, Wisconsin in the rain. We saw how much they struggled last week against Iowa in the rain. If it rains again tonight in Eugene, do we maybe lean towards an under in this spot?
Maybe. I think I've seen some movement up today. A couple sharps we know gave out the over at 44. I think that would be my first look in the game, especially if you, right, 44 is another one of those key totals we talk about.
Yep.
Now that we're at 44.5, in fact, I see circa 45.5.
Wow.
Probably a little bit too stretched to bet the over now. The key is going to be the Oregon players that are hurt. It looks like Decory Moore's not going to play. I don't know about Sadiq. I know Bryant, their other receiver, took a knock in that Iowa game. We'll see if he plays. So Oregon dealing with some injuries, but they still have Dante Moore, and I think that to me is the guy that they need. And man, he made some big throws last week. I think Oregon has enough in the tank to get past this game, even without some of their key players. But we'll see how good they are long term, because I'll be honest, I think they haven't really beaten an elite team yet this year.
Yep.
So I think whereas Oregon is kind of one of those teams that we just in our heads just put in the college football playoff, they got a big game next week against USC. USC's got a big game this week against Iowa, which we'll get to I'm sure in a little bit. But it's not a lock that Oregon makes the college football playoff. I mean, I could absolutely see a scenario where they get blasted by USC next week.
Yes.
And all of a sudden it's USC that, is that 3rd Big Ten team.
Yeah. No, I think you're speaking, going back to the college football playoff rankings, I think Michigan and USC are still alive.
Sure.
For certain. And with the total going up tonight, it's, weather report looks much better. Much better. I just looked at it now, and it appears that we're in the clear for tonight. So that's why you're probably seeing the Sharps maybe attack a number that was suppressed a little bit that is now getting back to where it really should be. All right, let's move to tomorrow, the Saturday slate, and it kicks off early. Indiana with a 28.5-point line here at home against Wisconsin. Jared, the one question I have is just, and now it's up to 29.5, I'm seeing up on FanDuel right now. Are we a little concerned, Indiana, with the how it played out last week, or is this like the bounce back smash spot after what happened last week?
Well, honestly, I thought Wisconsin, now that was another rain game against Washington, but I thought Wisconsin's defense played really well last week against a pretty damn good Washington offense with Williams and Coleman there, quarterback and running back. This also feels like an under game, right? I got under 44.5, another one of those key totals. I think Indiana right now is in survive mode. You make it to the Big Ten championship game, and then you let the chips fall there. And Wisconsin's offense is, the worst in college. It's maybe the worst in Power 5 offense right now, or Power 4 offense, excuse me. So I would lean to the under, especially if Indiana just kind of, gets by and puts, not their best stuff on tape. And, people forget Indiana. We think about Indiana as this elite offensive team. Their defense is pretty damn good. I think they might have one of the best defenses in the entire FBS. So this feels like one of those games that's going to be kind of played at a snail's pace. Both teams play relatively slow tempos. I think if you get it over that key total of 44, I would look to an under here.
Any take on number 3 Texas A&M, 17.5-point favorites over South Carolina?
No. I think A&M right now looks like a team that is figuring out how to play, especially on offense. I really like A&M's offense a lot. Very multiple. Their defense, too, creates a lot of havoc. I actually did watch I did get into some of the film on the A&M defense this week. I really like their edge rushers. Howell, transfer from Bowling Green's got elite speed. Their defensive tackle, Onyedim, transfer from Iowa State, looked really good on tape against Mizzou. They've got some dudes on defense that can really get after you. Torian York's also just a lunatic at the linebacker position, one of the most instinctual players probably in all of college football. So they can cover you one-on-one. They're aggressive in the box. Elko's a great defensive coach. And on the offensive side with Colin Klein, their offensive coordinator, I really think he's done a good job figuring out ways to get the most out of Marcel Reed and advance his ability to throw it downfield. They've got an elite trio of receivers that are kind of more slot guys, and I love the running game. So this is, listen, A&M, guys, is legit. Now, you're talking about a big number in the SEC. Double-digit dogs typically cover in the SEC, but obviously A&M's the better team.
Yep. All right, let's talk about the first of the big games here in the early slate. It is the ABC noon game, and it is Notre Dame against Pittsburgh. College game day will be there, although it's an NFL stadium. Like, I don't know what the crowd's going to be like. It'll probably be at least 50-50, if not maybe more Notre Dame fans going there into the big, the stadium there in Pittsburgh, Acrisure, I think it's called now. It's not even Heinz Field anymore. I placed a bet earlier this week on Pittsburgh's team total to go under 21.5. Up on FanDuel right now, you can still get under 20.5. And I would still place that bet, Jared. Notre Dame's defense is the biggest story that no one's talking about in college football. Yes, they looked ugly in those first two games. Even in the third game of the season, they looked ugly. And Marcus Freeman was answering questions about whether or not he was going to take over the play calling duties. And he said, no, we're going to be fine. And you know something? They've been fine. Their defense in wins this year has allowed only 14 points per game. In the last 6 games, only one team has scored more than 1 touchdown in a game against USC. And that was 2 touchdowns scored by USC, the number 1 offense in college football. And they only scored 2 touchdowns, okay? Pitt will not score more than 2 touchdowns in this game. I don't know if Pitt's going to score 2 touchdowns in this game. My best bet, you can certainly lay it with Notre Dame if you want to. I just think that Pittsburgh's not going to score on this defense. I go Pitt team total under 20.5, currently still available up on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think Pitt, they're an interesting story on offense. They benched Holstein a few weeks ago, and true freshman Mason Heinchtel, sorry if I mispronounced that name, 5-0 since then. So, again, a lot of arm talent, still learning how to kind of play the position. 10 big-time throws since week 6. That's actually tied for 13th in the FBS. So he's put some good stuff on tape, but also 12 turnover-worthy plays, tied for 7th.
Yuck.
So, again, still kind of learning how to play the quarterback position. He's kind of hit or miss against man coverage. 4 big-time throws and 4 turnover-worthy plays against man coverage, which is actually tied for the most in the FBS. Well, guess who plays the most man in college football? Notre Dame at about 50%. So that'll be a fascinating matchup. Leonard Moore, one of the best corners in all of college football. I do think Notre Dame's defense, especially slow track at Acrisure Stadium. The Steelers always have that weird turf where it's not a fast track. Now, the key for Pittsburgh is Desmond Reed going to play because he's been banged up recently. I would say he's their best kind of playmaker on the offensive side. That's a guy who can beat man coverage. So if he plays, if he's healthy, I think that could be kind of a fly in the ointment. On the other side of the ball, man, this Notre Dame offense, I really think C.J. Carr is starting to come into his own. The Pitt linebackers are the heart and soul of the team. Kyle Lewis, Brandon Lovelace, Cameron Lindsay, they've been really stepping up this season. They're going to have to be really good against the run in this game. I do like C.J. Carr. See, that's the difference from last year where teams could take away the run with Notre Dame and not be concerned about getting beat down the field. But now you got Malachi Fields and Faison and Pauling. And C.J. Carr, who has the ability to throw it deep. So you can't just stack the box and play man-to-man on the outside because Notre Dame's going to burn you. So how does Pat Narduzzi play it? We know he loves to run all these exotic blitzes and these kind of kooky schemes defensively. I think that's going to be a fun matchup to watch. I would agree Notre Dame's on the front foot. The question is, can Pitt, be cleaner on offense? And can the freshman quarterback not turn it over? I think if he does, then you're probably in good shape with your under.
Number 18, Michigan takes on Northwestern at Wrigley Field. It looks beautiful. It really does. There's just something about football in a baseball stadium that just brings back like maybe a little bit of nostalgia for when, a lot of teams would share stadiums, but also just looks cool. It looks cool. And it's much better than what they had in the past. Do you remember the first time they did the game at Wrigley where they had to only score on one end zone because of the safety issues, because the wall was too close to the back of the other end zone.
Yep.
So both teams had to switch the sides and actually just go score on one side of the field. I mean, it was like a backyard game. Ridiculous. Anyway, much better configuration now. This is the big noon kickoff game, so I'm sure you're going to be touched on this on tomorrow's Fox Sports Radio on Countdown to Kickoff, Jared. You got Michigan now up on FanDuel laying 10.5, total of 41.5 here. What do you have?
Yeah, I mean, Michigan's obviously still playing for everything. They went out. They beat Ohio State. They're in the playoff. They even could get into the Big Ten championship game if they beat Ohio State, which would be awesome, frankly. That would be talk about a change of pace. Like, we have basically just put Ohio State in the Big Ten title as the number 1 seed. And they still have, I don't want to say their toughest game to play. I would say Texas, probably was pretty tough. They played couple other tough opponents, but something about that Michigan team just gives them problems. But in this particular game, I feel like Michigan should be on the front foot. The D-line has been the heart and soul of the team this year. Moore and Barham and Benny and Pierce, like, those are their 4 highest graded players, or are the 4 defensive linemen on defense this year. Not quite as good as they were last year, obviously, but still very talented. 12th best defensive line in the country per Pro Football Focus. The Michigan offense obviously relies heavily on the run, over 6 yards per carry. That's a top 10 rate, 2.5 before first contact, also top 10 in the nation. Northwestern really struggles to stop the run, 66 tackling grade. And 108th in Pro Football Focus's run defense grade. So how they handle the running game is going to be absolutely huge. Jordan Marshall's been fantastic for Michigan this year, redshirt freshman, since he's come back from injury, over 400 yards, and they even had a bye week in that stretch. So probably should have been even more. But you really look at what this Michigan offense and their offensive line has done this year. I think that's the edge for them in this game. On the other side, Northwestern's going to need a lot from Caleb Kamalafe, their star running back. David Braun's more of a defensive coach, but I think he's done a pretty decent job this year. But they're going to be challenged a lot in this game. The physicality, I think, of Michigan is going to win out.
All right. Yeah, I agree. I think they're too physical. They're too good. Defensively, they're too good. I like Michigan a lot here in this spot. Okay, let's move on to a game. Number 25, Cincinnati takes on Arizona. Cincinnati, a 6.5-point favorite here, Jared. Do we, they've had some time to stew in the loss to Utah, right? So does that help them or does it hurt them? Because we always say, like, you want to get over a bad loss by just getting back on the field right away, right? But having a week to kind of maybe hit the reset button and to think about it and to say, hey, we still have plenty of things to play for here. Let's just get back on track. What do we think? Does that help Cincinnati or hurt Cincinnati? What do you think about them? Because Cincinnati still can make the Big 12 title game. Just win out. Don't think about BYU next week. Just win, and you're in the conference title game, regardless of how much you got beat by last week.
Yeah, I don't love this matchup for Cincy, to be honest with you. I mean, I agree with your take on getting back onto the field, and you get BYU next week, which is going to be a huge game, of course. But this is a tough matchup because Brendan Sorsby this year has really struggled against man coverage. It's not all his fault. They don't have a ton of weapons on the outside. But when you look at the 2 losses against Nebraska and Utah, those corners were just not afraid of the Cincinnati receivers on the outside. And Cincy this year against man coverage, 69th in yards per attempt, 115th in explosive play rate. Well, guess what? Arizona plays man coverage at a top 25 rate in the country this year. So they are really good at matching up on the outside and taking away your outside receivers. And I think that's going to be an issue for Sorsby in this game. On the other side, Noah Fafita has been really good against zone coverage. And that's something that Cincinnati plays a lot of. So I think the matchup actually favors Arizona. The problem is I just don't know how good they are on the road, early game in what is going to be not a difficult environment. I'm not saying Cincinnati's like, the most difficult environment to play, but it's a desert team going to the Midwest in the middle of November. Sometimes those can be tricky, especially in an early start time. So I actually like the matchups better for Arizona, especially, their defense locking down the Cincinnati receivers. But I think the funky time slot and the motivational factor you mentioned about Cincinnati bouncing back off the loss kind of make this one a wash for me.
Okay, I'm never going to say that a minus 210 money line is like one of my favorite bets of the week, Jared. Cincinnati's not losing this football game. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you a stat. Teams that lose by 30 or more points and then are favored in their next game since the start of the 2021 season, 120 wins, 41 losses.
Not bad.
Now, they're only 51% against the spread because on average, these teams are double-digit favorites. but 120 at 120 and only 41. With everything to play for, with the Big 12 title game still on the line, Cincinnati's not losing this football game. So, hey, bet accordingly, whatever whatever you'd like to risk. But 6.5 point favorites, minus 210 on the money line. Okay, Cincy. Okay.
At 1-800-Flowers.com, we know that connections are at the heart of being human. Whether celebrating life's joys or comforting during tough times, 1-800-Flowers helps you express what words can't. For nearly 50 years, millions have trusted 1-800-Flowers to deliver thoughtful gifts that help create lasting bonds. Because it's more than just a gift. It's your way of showing you care. Visit 1-800-Flowers.com/WWO and connect today. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/WWO.
Well, let's talk about the big game in the afternoon slate here. Number 11, Oklahoma at number 4, Alabama. Right now up on FanDuel, it is Alabama. The Tide are favored by 5.5 points. So we've actually seen some money coming in on Oklahoma. Total is at 45.5. Now, earlier in the week, I mean, listen, I hate to just say in pocket, but this was a game that I did play under the total earlier in the week. And I got under 46.5. So we've seen the number go down. I love these defenses. I mean, Oklahoma, yes, they're number one in every metric, right? Adjusted EPA per play, defensive success rate, defensive havoc, tackles for loss. Number one. Oklahoma's great. I think the Alabama defense is underrated. And I don't think that John Mateer is going to put up a lot of points here against the Alabama defense. I see this as a low-scoring game, a low-scoring, hard-fought game that might come down to the final possession. I don't know if I feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable taking the points to Oklahoma because I think Alabama's just much better. But I also don't feel comfortable laying the points because I think it could be a field goal game. I am comfortable, though, saying that this is going to be low-scoring. Give me the under.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think this is a very interesting role reversal game. First of all, the line was 13.5 in the summer.
Yes, that's the crazy thing about it. Yeah. Yep.
So obviously, I don't want to say Bama's been downgraded since then, but I think Oklahoma's been significantly upgraded. Right, last year Bama lost their third game of the year to Oklahoma on the road. It was kind of the knockout punch for them. This is a big revenge game for them, right? Oklahoma now comes in on the road on 2 losses. And if they lose this game, they're probably knocked out of the college football playoff. We know Oklahoma wants to run it. John Mateer has not thrown it well since the thumb surgery, and I don't think this is going to be an injury that will be healed before the end of the regular season. This feels, when you get surgery on your throwing thumb, you're not just going to come back and be the same quarterback in a month. It's going to take 6 months to a year. For example, I had stitches on my thumb in June to heal an injury that I suffered while saving my dog from a little scuffle in the dog park, and I still feel it. We're in November, 5 months later, and now I'm left-handed, so this is on my right hand, but I still feel it 5 months later on my thumb, and that was just a few stitches. I can't imagine getting actual surgery. So I think the thumb and the hand, because of the way that the veins and the vascular way, I'm not a doctor, but again, I've gone through one of these injuries recently. It takes a really long time to heal your hand because there's just not a lot of blood flow in there. So this is not something that he's just going to magically heal from overnight. We've seen the accuracy drop off dramatically since coming back from the injury. Now, the good news is he can still run it. And that has been the bugaboo for this Bama defense, right? Running quarterbacks. We saw Jackson Arnold have a big game, 135 yards rushing last year in this game, minus sacks. I do think the Bama defense drops off a little bit against rushing quarterbacks, but I agree with your take. This Alabama defense with Kane Womack is a very underrated unit. We talk a lot about Ty Simpson in the offense, but I think this defense has dudes, especially at the second level, and that's what it's going to take to get Mateer on the ground when he's using those, legs on the design quarterback runs. The Alabama offensive line for me against the Oklahoma pass rush is strength on strength. Sooners have the 3rd best pressure rate in the country. Top 10 in pass rush grade. R. Mason Thomas is an absolute beast. Halton Stone, the defensive tackle, also is a guy that can really get into you. This Bama offensive line will be tested in this game. Brent Venables, right, especially in obvious passing downs, they are going to throw the kitchen sink at Ty Simpson. Simpson's efficiency drops off dramatically when pressured. So if he can get the ball out quick, if he can, stay upright, that's going to be huge in this game. He's had some fumble problems recently. I think he's only thrown 1 pick all year, but the fumbles have been the biggest issue for him. So that's the game within the game. Brent Venables' defense trying to get Ty Simpson under duress. I do think Bama's going to have a good plan in place for that. And I'm not fading Bama at this point. I have Bama my number one team in the country. I know that they've lost the game and they're not going to be ranked number one, but I've had them number one as my national champion since the jump in August. I'm not changing that opinion now. I think if they run the table and win the SEC championship game and they're undefeated in the SEC, I don't understand how you do not give the Heisman to Ty Simpson. But obviously this is a tough game. I think discounts on Bama. I agree with your take on the under. And I think Alabama gets the job done at home.
Let's move to the Big Ten, where number 21, Iowa, is at number 17, USC. And we have a weather game here, Jared. It's raining all weekend here in Los Angeles, which is crazy. Raining all weekend here in LA. The total is now 48.5, so it's still a high total. USC is a 6.5-point favorite up on FanDuel. Do have concerns about the field there. Does the Coliseum hold the water? Is it going to be a muddy field there in LA? And we know the Iowa kids are going to be used to playing in this. Will USC be used to playing in this? Here's the other thing, though, and it's the reason why I bet USC in this game. I think that this is the season's over for Iowa. It's a dream crusher scenario. 3 combined losses by 10 points. I understand that. They're in every game. But their college playoff dream ended last week with that loss. And I look at USC this year, as great as they are on offense, they're the only team in the country averaging 300 passing yards and 200 rushing yards per game. USC has not produced those numbers since 2005 when there was a guy named Bush that was there. I think that we're going to see the USC offense have control of this game, even in the rain. And what do we say when it comes to weather games, Jared? It's not so much the precipitation, it's the wind that hurts things. We're not going to have wind here in this game. It's just going to be a wet field. And in a wet field, I got to be honest, I like the offenses because the receivers know where they're going. The defensive backs have to read and react, and against these athletes of USC, I think we could see some Iowa defensive backs slipping. And we might get Jaden Mayava hitting an open receiver that's running down the field because the cornerback slipped when trying to keep up with him. I think USC is the much better team. With all due respect to Kirk Ferentz, they're the better coached team right now, USC. Give me USC to win this game and cover the spread.
Yeah, I think there are some, like, I can make a case for Iowa to not care about, because going into the year, did they really have college football playoff aspirations? I don't think so. I mean, maybe, deep in that locker room they did, but I think they're going to be up. Like, Iowa, that's what Iowa does. Iowa gets up for games. So I don't think they're just going to roll over and die. I do think the matchup on the outside favors USC for sure, right? Like, that's something that Oregon couldn't do very effectively last week. A, they were dealing with a ton of injuries. B, the weather was really bad in Iowa City. USC's going to, Mayava's got 25 deep completions this year. That's second most in the country. He's got a really a top 10 passing grade against throws 20 or more yards downfield. Like, they're going to challenge the Iowa defense, no doubt. But Iowa's really good at preventing the deep ball. Top 10 coverage grade and a really low passing grade. Actually, one of the lowest in college football on deep throws. So that is something Iowa does well.
They haven't played an offense that throws downfield.
Agreed. Yeah, this is the receivers are going to challenge them, no doubt about it.
Like, they gave up 28 points to Rutgers, and that's the closest offense that I can think of that throws the ball like this. And Callie McManus threw for 330 yards.
Yeah, no, I think USC is going to have success in this game. The question is USC's defense going to be able to hold up against the Iowa run game? So I did a film study this week on this exact matchup. I watched the entire Notre Dame USC game. Every single running play.
Good
and
comparison.
I noticed two things. First, the USC defenders at the second level really struggle to tackle, especially the safeties. And they take terrible angles, and they are getting constantly out-leveraged. The second thing I noticed, D'Anton Lynn flat out refused to bring that extra safety into the box. For example, I watched a red zone play on 1st and 10 at the 16-yard line, and he's playing 2 high safeties. Like, what are you defending against at the 16-yard line on 1st and 10? Why are there 2 high safeties?
Against the team that has 2 of the top 4
Exactly.
running backs in the country.
It just and so I'm not saying that they're like I agree. Like, when I broke this game down, I was like, damn, USC's gonna be chucking the hell out of it. But Iowa might run the piss right down USC's throat, and that is what scares me. If D'Anton Lynn refuses to make any adjustments, he did not adjust at all in that Notre Dame game. They were playing 2 high safeties the whole freaking game, and Notre Dame ran it right down their throat. So that's the one thing that scares me, is USC just has this softness to them at times that a team like Iowa, I think, can take advantage of. Now, if the game's 21-zip and they aren't really in a positive game script to run it. Obviously, that will impact things. But let's say, right, the rain's maybe a little bit worse than expected. And I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just writing the narrative, the script for an Iowa win or an upset. If USC gets off to a slightly slow start, the rain's a little bit worse than expected, Mayava can't complete anything downfield, and all of a sudden Iowa starts running it right down USC's throat, and they've got a 7-0 lead, and all of a sudden it's the second half, and it's a tight game. So I think that is what concerns me about just blindly laying the points with USC, because I can see a path for Iowa just to out-physical this USC defense, which at the second level has had problems stopping the run this year.
I mean, this field is going to be a slop fest there at the Coliseum.
Which favors Iowa. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah,
that favors Iowa.
It's raining now, Jared, in LA, and it's not stopping. Like, it's going to rain all day and night here on Friday, all day and night on Saturday. This is a Saturday afternoon game, which is a weird start time for a USC game, by the way, at 12:30 Pacific.
Yeah.
But it's going to be the rain's not
Would
stopping.
it shock you if Iowa win? I would not be shocked if Iowa wins this game. I would not be shocked.
If they do, it's because the rain significantly affects USC.
And because they slam it right down USC's throat, and Danton refuses to make an adjustment.
Mm-hmm. Like, Iowa just keeps it on the ground the whole game, and it's their first possession of the game is a 9-minute, 90-yard drive that goes for a touchdown, and then USC goes 3 and out, and then Iowa has another 7-minute drive that results in a field goal, and all of a sudden it's 10-0 Iowa, and you're like, wait, the first half's over? Yep. And USC got the ball once, like that's the scenario I think where Iowa can pull.
And that's kind of what they did to Oregon last week.
Yes.
And that was, I mean, you are a breath
that was my best bet of the
away
week.
from them winning that game.
Listen, my best bet of the week was Iowa last week. I'm very happy. But
I really like this Iowa offensive line. They're going to win the Joe Moore Award this year. It's probably the best offensive line in college football.
Yeah. A couple more games to talk about here, Jared, real quick. Let's get to Duke hosting number 19 Virginia. You got Duke as a 4.5-point favorite now up on FanDuel, and it's a Duke team that is 5-4 in the year, but still the likely participant here in the ACC championship game. Do they cover 4.5 here against a Virginia team that looks like it's going to be without Chandler Morris at quarterback?
Yeah, I think you got to play Duke if you're going to bet this game. Mensa, listen. When you look at his numbers this year, loves to attack outside the numbers, second in the nation in that category behind Julian Sain, 15 big-time throws. They've got an underrated group of receivers. I really like Cooper Barcade. The Harvard transfer has been fantastic. The soft part of Virginia's defense is the secondary. I think Duke is going to have some opportunities here to attack deep downfield outside the numbers. The Virginia run game is going to be the big part here without Chandler Morris. The backup quarterback, Daniel Kalen, really struggled in relief last week. Jamari Taylor's been really good, 4th most yards after contact in the Power 4. 11 touchdowns, that's 5th most in the Power 4. UVA's got a really good run blocking grade this year. They've been fantastic. Duke's run defense has been the one part of their defense, the rush defense, that's kind of been susceptible over the last few games. But I think they're going to stack the box here. They're going to force Kalen to beat them down the field. The Duke secondary, again, 7th worst coverage grade in Power 4. That's a surprise. They were supposed to have an elite secondary this year, but they haven't been good. Terry Moore tore his ACL. That was a big injury before the season started. He was one of the best safeties in college football. But it's all about turnovers with Duke, Scott. In their 5 wins this year, 1 turnover. In their 4 losses, 10. They beat themselves too much. I think they'll control things here, but obviously the turnover bug can bite them at any moment.
Yeah, Duke number 4 in defensive havoc, number 11 in tackles for loss. So they can create negative plays. So if they can cause the turnovers, they'll have no problem covering. The line did dip, though, because there is some positive news on Chandler Morris actually playing in this game. I just think if he does, Jared, I mean, look, in the NFL, just real quick on this. In the NFL, it's only happened one time, and that was Brock Purdy last year, I believe. One time it's happened where a quarterback passed through the concussion protocol 1 week after getting the concussion in the game. It's never only happened one time. If a quarterback gets a concussion on Sunday, they never play the next Sunday. Brock Purdy was the only quarterback that's ever done it. We've now seen it multiple times in college football. And if Chandler Morris plays this game after suffering a concussion on Saturday, what are we doing? What are we doing with these kids? It's like, why is it? I understand different rules, NFL, college, okay, but like, protect them. It's ridiculous. It's unbelievable, but they don't care. NIL, we don't care. Anyway, let's move on. A couple of games here we have to get to, Jared. Let's talk about, before we get to the 2 biggest games, I think, of the night slate. The early one is Utah against Baylor early, 7 p.m. Number 13, Utah against Baylor. Utah, they look great. 8.5-point favorites here at Baylor. I played Utah's team total to go over. It's a big number, but at 34.5, I think it's actually a key number because you get below the 35, which is a round number in terms of like touchdowns. That's my best bet in this game. I don't see how Baylor stops this Utah offense.
Yeah, I agree. Utah offensive identity. They pound the rock, 56% run rate this year. That's third highest, I should say, in Power 4. And they're great yards per contact or before contact, yards per carry, everything in the run game's been great. Baylor struggles to defend the run. 6th worst run defense grade in Power 4, 84th in yards before first contact. They've allowed a lot of quarterbacks to run wild as well. 60 yards they've given up to quarterbacks 4 times in 9 games. The Auburn loss, Cincy loss, TCU loss, Arizona State loss, all had issues in the run game. So I think that's going to be the big one here. Utah's going to throw that 6th offensive lineman in formation, Dampier with the quarterback. They'll give him the +1, right? What does +1 mean? If the quarterback's running it, use the running back as a blocker. So you get an extra blocker. You get that +1 advantage at the line of scrimmage. And Wayshawn Parker's been great, averaging 7 yards per carry. The one bugaboo is Sawyer Robertson can just light you up at any moment. 6th most dropbacks in college football. They throw it deep. And when they win, they're really successful at throwing it deep. In the 4 wins this year against Power 4 teams, he's got a 53% completion rate on throws 10 or more yards downfield, 12 big-time throws, 4 turnover-worthy plays. In the 4 losses, 39% completion rate, 5 big-time throws to 9 turnover-worthy plays. So can Sawyer Robertson push this Utah defense off the line of scrimmage and beat them deep? If not, it's going to be a long day for the Bears.
Texas takes on Georgia, number 10 at number 5. And Georgia right now is the home favorite, obviously, between the hedges. 5.5-point favorites up on FanDuel. So we're seeing some money come in on Texas. Jared, total is at 49.5. I know there's some people out there that love this game to go under. I actually think it's the opposite. I think this game goes over. Because I look at, I'm sure you've seen this on film, both of these defenses are great against the run. Like, they do not give against the run. But I think both defenses can be had through the air. Georgia's 100th in defensive EPA per dropback. Texas is 56th. They're both 70 and 83rd, respectively, in defensive passing success. And Arch Manning has looked great in the last 2 games. 674 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. I think Gunnar Stockton could have a day through the air against this Texas defense. Seeing the way that both offenses have to attack these defenses, I think it's going to lend to a more high-scoring game. I'd be shocked if both teams lined up, Jared, and said they're going to try and run the ball because both of these defenses will stop the run.
I agree. I think what I've seen from Arch Manning over the last few weeks has been really positive. Looks calmer, more comfortable in the pocket. Since week 7, he's got the 12th best passing grade in college football, 18th best adjusted accuracy rate, only 1 turnover-worthy play. That's the key. Last year, Texas hosted Georgia. They were the number 1 team in the country. They turned it over 4 times. Quinn Ewers got sacked, I think, 5 times with 2 fumbles. Arch and his legs are going to be a factor, I think, in this game. Now, the one thing Texas's offense has done recently to make him more comfortable is they've throttled down. The average depth of target, just 6.5 yards, one of the shortest in college football in that span. They're getting a ton of success in yak and screens, and that's something Georgia doesn't defend very well, though. So I think, can you get Arch comfortable early in the game? Maybe some design quarterback runs. Can you limit the turnovers? Can you limit the sacks? Georgia's not a great pressure rate team this year. On the other side, you mentioned Gunnar Stockton and the Georgia offense, 4th highest adjusted accuracy rate on the year. He is not afraid to rip it down the field. Now, the problem is, against zone coverage and tighter windows, he's been a little bit shaky. So can Texas collapse the pocket? You got Colin Simmons, one of the best pass rushers in the country. This Texas defense, I think, is good, not great. I haven't loved what I've seen. They've given up a ton of points over the last few weeks to Mississippi State and some Kentucky random teams. But I do think you are looking at a Texas defense that if they can get pressure on Gunnar Stockton, I love Gunnar. He's a gamer, but Texas has the better quarterback in this game. They might have the better defense. You could probably say Georgia's got the better coach, but there's a lot of reasons to like Texas here. I took 6.5. I agree with your take on the over. It feels like a close game. It feels like whichever quarterback can limit the turnovers and figure out a way to find explosives, that team's going to win.
I like Texas. I mean, the numbers, kind of lost here. You certainly would much rather get as many points as you can, but I think this is a higher scoring game for sure. All right, one final game. It is the late game here on Saturday night. Number 12, BYU hosts TCU. BYU a 3.5-point favorite. Jared, I'm on BYU. I've already bet it at the minus 3.5. I think that this team has a lot to play for, certainly, when we look at the Big 12 and the college football playoff standings. A good bounce-back spot after the loss to Texas Tech. Get off the schneid. Don't look ahead to the matchup against Cincinnati. I don't care that it's like, regardless if they win or lose this game, they can still get to the Big 12 championship game by, beating Cincinnati next week. I think that I love the coach. I love the players. And here's the other thing. It's BYU at night at home.
Yeah.
You do not go to that stadium in Provo at night and win a football game. It is one of the biggest home field advantages in all of college football to play a primetime game in Provo. I'll give you the numbers in just a moment here, but BYU minus 3.5 is my play.
Yeah, I think the key is, can TCU stop the run, right? We know BYU wants to run it. They want to get LJ Martin the ball. TCU does have one of the best run defensive grades in college football, 18th in yards per carry, allowed 4th in yards after contact per carry, and they're really good at defending the explosives. The key is, how much petrol do they have left in the tank after really losing a bad game last week to Iowa State and really kind of ending their Big 12 playoff hopes. Josh Hoover's been good against man coverage this year. BYU plays a lot of man coverage. TCU, I think, it does have a couple weapons that can really stretch the field. But I agree with your take on the home environment, the altitude, and just overall the vibes, I think, around TCU after blowing that game to Iowa State last week. I don't know how up they're going to be. Now, if they do bring the fire, again, the matchups I do think give me some reason for optimism with TCU. Hoover's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country. I don't know how up they're going to be for this game and how that environment and altitude will impact them.
Yeah, BYU, one of the best home field advantages, as I said, in college football. 30 in the past just several years, like 32-4 straight up in primetime games. We are just going to ride the Cougars here in this spot on late Saturday night. He is Jared Smith. Check him out on Twitter at Jared Smith Bets. Fox Sports Radio coming up tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. or what? No, 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Eastern
Eastern.
time.
Yep.
9 a.m.
6 a.m.
Eastern
Pacific.
time.
I'll be up early.
6 a.m. I always get the Pacific time messed up because I know you wake up so early, but I'm like, it's 9 a.m. Eastern time, and it is Fox Sports Countdown to Kickoff, Fox Sports Radio. Jared will get you ready for that big noon kickoff game at Wrigley Field, as well as the rest of the college football slate coming up here on your busy Saturday. Make sure you head to betterday.com. Check out all the amazing new features that we have for you. Still plenty more to come. NFL prop sheet will be coming out here a little bit later on, so you get your prop bets here for NFL week number 11. For Jared Smith, I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.